Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Chagigah, and we are on Daf Zayin, Amud Aleph, 7a. The limud of Amud Yomi for this week has been dedicated anonymously for Refuah Shelema of Chaim Arsenira. Shall have Refuah Shelema in the upcoming surgery that he has, and also has been anonymously sponsored for Chodesh Adar for the Hatzlacha and Yeshua of all the Chabura.
Amen.
We are by the first wide line, basically, in the middle of the discussion between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, whether or not a person that is coming to Beit HaMikdash in regards to Korban HaRe'iyah, we mentioned the Olah, the Korban Olav, Olat HaRe'iyah. If you come a second time to the scene of Harabayit, you're staying, imagine you came from northwest Yisraeli, you're staying in Yerushalayim, you went the first day, and now you want to come a second time. Do you have to bring another Korban Re'iyah? So originally, the Gemara thought that Machloket Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan is that Rabbi Yochanan will tell you, when you come again the second time, you don't have to bring another Korban Re'iyah a second time. And Rish Lakish will tell you, no, part and parcel of coming to the scene of Harabayit, the mitzvah of Re'iyah, is bringing a Korban. So hence, Chol HaMoed, the first morning of Chol HaMoed, you want to come again, you have to bring another Korban. The third day you come again, you have to bring another Korban. That's the original thought that we had. Now, Rabbi Yochanan is going to ask a question and therefore dismantle that thought. And we're going to rephrase and reconstruct the machloket of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. So take a look at two lines up before the wide lines. It's where Rabbi Yochanan le Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asked, Yera'eh yir'eh. When the pasuk says, "Shalosh pa'amim b'shana yira'eh kol zechurcha et pnei Hashem Elokecha b'makom asher yivchar," the word "yira'eh," to be seen, could also be read "yir'eh." It's the same exact way of writing it, and "yir'eh" means to see. So Hashem is comparing in the pasuk seeing and being seen together. What does that mean exactly? Says Rabbi Yochanan, a drasha. Ma'ani bechinam, afatem bechinam. That just like I am free, that means when you come, you don't have to, when you come, I don't bring anything to you, so to speak. That's interesting. Afatem bechinam. You also could come for free. You don't have to bring anything. So of course we know that the first day that's not true because it says lo yera'u panai rekam. So hence, says Rabbi Yochanan, this must be saying that regularly speaking, when you come to the Beit HaMikdash, you're not required to bring anything. And that completely pushes off Rish Lakish's understanding that you can never come to the scene of Harabayit without a Korban Re'iyah. So therefore, because of this question, this is strong enough of a question that the Gemara basically reconstructs the machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, and says the Gemara, Ella, now the first wide line, Kol echad de'ata ve'lo aiti de'kula alma lo pligi de'ayi lo mitchazi. When he comes and he does not bring any korban with him, this is subsequent to the first time coming, of course. Nobody disagrees that you could come. Both Rabbi Yochanan and even Rish Lakish will tell you, if you come subsequent to the first time, you're good to go. You don't have to bring a korban. What is the machloket? The machloket is, if you do decide to bring another korban, do we even accept it from you? That's the machloket.
They changed it?
They changed it. Yeah. Complete change. Ki peligi, second line. Ki peligi de atavaiti. The machloket is when he comes and he's bringing a second korban with him in the second day of the Moed, Rabbi Yochanan Da'amar, Rabbi Yochanan says, Riyat Panim Ba'azara, Riyat Panim Hu, De'en Lah Shi'ur, Lekorban Yesh Lah Shi'ur. This that we say, Riyat Panim doesn't have a Shi'ur, it's only you coming to the scene of Arabayit, that's what doesn't have Shi'ur. But Korban has Shi'ur, that has limitation. You bring one Korban, you get one bite and an apple, basically, that's it. You bring a second one, we don't accept it. Resh Lakish says, no, Riyat Panim be Korban. Riyat Panim is always bit Korban. So hence, if you want to come a second time and you want to voluntarily bring another Korban, it's fine, no problem with that. Afilu Korban Nami en lo shiur. Even Korban Ola Avreya also doesn't have a shiur. You could bring it whenever you want. Yes, we don't accept it.
So it's not accepting that you shouldn't even bring it.
You should not bring it. And if you do bring it, we don't bring it for you. We don't shecht it for you.
The Kohen says, sorry,
Correct.
According to Rabbi.
Yes. Come back in Shavuot. So says the Gemara. Now, again, now that we've presented the new way of understanding the machloket, we go through a question that Rabbi Yochanan asks Resh Lakish. Itve, hokar rak lecha mi bet re'echa. The pasuk says, Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei Perek Kafei, hokar rak lecha mi bet re'echa pen yispa'echa usne'echa. Even if you have a close friend, don't be going there every single day. Hokar rak lecha. Right? Milashon yakar. It's not all the time. It's hardly found. It's heavy. It's not light to go. Don't go all the time to your friend. Shlomo HaMelech says, why? Because maybe he'll be satiated and full of you, and then he's going to start resenting you. But don't do it too much because he's going to resent you. So it says, the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan understood Re'acha is always a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu also, right? And therefore, it would mean that when you go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's house, so to speak, to the Beit HaMikdash, Hokar rak lecha. Don't be going every day bringing a korban. So says Rabbi Yochanan from this pasuk, you see, you should not be constantly bringing korban out to Hashem. Why? He's your best friend. Every day you go with the korban. You bring it when it's needed. And too much of it is not a necessity, and it's not even positive. So that's the understanding that Rabbi Yochanan has in the pasuk, and that's what he asks as a question, as a challenge to Resh Lakish. So says the Gemara. Well, if you say Racha is a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then Shlomo HaMelech is hinting by usage of the word Racha, right? Is coming to tell you that even by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that relationship has to be very much controlled. It's not just, it's Avinu Malkenu. It's your father, but it's also your king. There's B'tchilu Urchimu. It's with love, but it's also with fear. There's a certain distance that has to be kept. You don't always do it just freely like that. So, this is his drasha, not his taich. Says the Gemara, Uchtiv avo betecha be'olot. So says the Gemara, Hatam bechataot v'ashamot, rather. The Gemara, on behalf of Resh Lakish, answers, says, no, that's talking about chataot v'ashamot. When do you bring korban chatat? It's a sin offering. When do you bring korban hasham? It's a sin offering. So yeah, of course, don't sin and don't bring korban chatat and korban hasham. Be a good boy, basically. That's what it means. Don't be bringing every day another asham. Like you come and say, mehila, and then you turn around, you bring another. So control yourself not to not to have to be bringing a lot of chataot v'ashamot. But you want to bring korban olav nedarim. You want to bring korban olav riyah. You want to bring good korbanot shalamim. What's the problem with that? Says Resh Lakish. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Levi. And this is the answer of the Gemara on behalf of Resh Lakish, is like the teaching of Rabbi Levi. Rabbi Levi asked this as a question, as an apparent stira, and this was his answer. What is the apparent stira? Rami Ktiv, on one hand it says, Hokar raglecha mi bet re'echa, make yourself heavy and hard to find, mi bet re'echa, don't be going every day. Same pasuk that Rabbi Yochanan darshin, and he's also understanding it to be hinting to the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So don't be going every day to Beit HaMikdash, so to speak. Right? By the way, we have this concept. Anyways, in the Gemara, we actually just had in the Haftarah, Parashat HaChodesh, it says when they would come to Riyat Panim, Haba derech Sha'ar Safon, if they would come from Sha'ar Safon, they would go derech Sha'ar Negev. They would go out from the other side. You would not go back from the same gate that you came through. The different gates to Yerushalayim, you would go through the town and not come back to see the same place twice. Chaim Shmuel says, you know why? Because the impression that you have, you want it to stay fresh. You see something twice, you get used to it, it loses the inspiration. There is that concept. But this is, of course, not talking about that. This is, altogether don't be going there. And Rabbi Levi also is understanding this to mean, to be hinting at least, in the level of drasha, that we don't want you to be bringing korbanot all the time. Really? Says Rabbi Levi. He himself asks a stira, a contradiction, apparent contradiction to this. He says the Gemara, Rabbi Levi says, on the other hand, it says, Uchtiv ava betecha beolot. The pasuk says, I come to your house with olot. David the Melech is saying this. Ashalem lecha nedarai. All of them are plural form. I come with a lot of olot. I come with a lot of korban nedarim. So which one is it? The father says, I come with a lot of korbanot. The son, Shlomo Melech, says, oh, don't be careful not to come too many times. So which one is it? It says Rabbi Levi, it's not a stira, lo kasha. Kan b'chataot v'ashamot, kan b'olot u'shlamim. We want to be careful not to have to bring a lot of korban chatat and korban hasham. Those are sin offerings. Be more careful, right? Be more careful. But on the other hand, olot and shlamim, you want to bring korban olah, you want to bring korban shalom, chazak baruch. That's great. Tanya Nam Yachi. This is an answer why we don't have a kasha on Rish Lakish. It's not a proof for Rish Lakish. It's just saving Rish Lakish from the question of Rabbi Yochanan. So says the Gemara, Tanya Nami Hachi, we also learned this in a Braita. So it's always good to have a support from the Braita over here. Hokar raglecha mi bet re'echa, same pasuk in Mishnah Chavei. Bechataot v'ashamot. Be careful not to go too many times to Hashem's house. That's talking about chataot v'ashamot, the sin offerings. Ata omer v'chataot v'ashamot, o eno ela be'olot u'shlamim. Is it really only by hatat and asham, by the sin offerings, or is it maybe even by olot u'shlamim, by korban olah, korban shlamim, maybe also that you shouldn't bring a lot? Says the Gemara, keshu omer avo betecha be'olot. When you see David HaMelech in Tehillim says, Hashem, I will come, he prides himself. He prides himself, I'm going to come bringing a lot of olot, right? Really, you could ask this even from Shlomo HaMelech himself. The Gemara, of course, doesn't do this, but says, Elef olot ye'aleh Shlomo. Shlomo HaMelech was doing 1,000 korban olas, right? So you see, from the pasuk in Tehillim that the Gemara over here brings, Avo betecha bolot ashalem lecha nedarai, hare olot u'shlamim amur. You see that already covers the concept of korban olah and korban shlamim. The more the better. You could bring a lot of korbanot, no problem. Amani mekayem okarag lecha mi bet re'echa. So therefore, how do I establish the pasuk of indicating that's not a good idea to go a lot of times to the Beit HaMikdash? That must be speaking about when you go for a negative cause. When you sin, then now you have to go bring a korban hatat, a korban asham. That becomes a problem, right? So therefore, v'chataot v'ashamot hakatuv medaber. So we basically leave this. The second way of understanding Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish everybody agrees that if you want to go alone without bringing a korban, subsequent time, after the first time that you went and you brought your korban olav re'iyah, you could go empty-handed. The lo yera'u panai rekam, don't come see me empty-handed, only applies the first time you go. You have an obligation of bringing an olat re'iyah. Once you fulfill that obligation, subsequent times, the week that you're staying there in Yerushalayim, you could go every day to Har HaBayit, to the Beit HaMikdash, and you don't have to bring any subsequent korbanot. But if you want to bring it, then it becomes questionable. Rabbi Yochanan says you can't and you shouldn't, and Rish Lakish says you can. So says the Gemara, 2 dots, 2 lines up. We said in the Mishnah some very peculiar language of you cannot be seen, you can't come up to the scene of Har HaBayit lechatzayin. What does that mean, lechatzayin? Right? Hopefully he's not talking about half a person, right? So what does it mean you can't come in halves? So says the Gemara, Savar Rabbi Yosef, lememar man deit le'asara banim lo lisgu ha'itna chamisha ul machar chamisha. Rabbi Yosef thought to say it means a family should be going up to Yerushalayim and to Har HaBayit as a whole. That means if you have 10 sons, don't take half of them today and half of them tomorrow. Right? Go together. Go together. So says the Gemara, wait a second. Abaye, who is a student of Rabbi Yosef, he says, that you don't need a pasuk for. That's simple. Amalei Abaye pshita. Why is it pashut, by the way? Why is that not needing a pasuk? Because when you say Yirai kol zechut b'nei Hashem, right? You have a mitzvah av zrizim maktimim lemitzvot. There's Gemarot that talk about this, saying whoever gets to Yerushalayim first is the zariz v'niskar, and negative things are said about the people who come late. So if that's correct, so imagine you have 10 people, and you get to Yerushalayim with all your kids, 10 kids. I say, Rabotai, what you got to do is, half of you guys are going to go today, half of you got to go tomorrow. The half that are going to go tomorrow are going to be called lazy. Which one of them you got to tell them, you guys be the lazy ones? It makes no sense. If you're there, you go up. Why do you need the pasuk to tell me that you're not going to go deliberately wait one day to go to Yerushalayim? If you're there, you go up. Pushim. He calls them pushim. Basically, he's a sinner. You're there, you go right away. Which one, which half you're going to make them pushim? Which one, which half of them you're going to make zrizim, that they're going to do it with alacrity? So therefore, says Abaye, Ela krale mai atam. You know why the pasuk is there? Lichda acherim is for the drasha of acherim. We learned this already, and the Gemara now says that this Mishnah that we have over here is a proof for the shita of acherim. You all remember that the most novel, perhaps, drasha that we so far have had is this drasha of acherim. That you know who is patur, not only the person that's lame and is blind and all of these things, but you have a group of people who their job is very smelly, right? Remember that? That's the drasha of acherim. Acherim omrim, 4th line down, hamkametz ma'misaref nechoshet va'abursi, a person that for their parnasah they will gather the excrement of dogs. This was used in processing leather. That they used to soak them in different material, and part of it was things that are strong acidic reaction. So they would take the excrements and use it for their job, but it was a very smelly job. You can imagine. So hamekames v'ametzaref nechoshet v'abursi tanner, all those people pturin minareya. Why? Shenemar kol zechurcha. Acherim darshin this from kol zechurcha, that a person is only obligated if you could go with everybody else, with kol zechurcha. A person that could be accompanied with other people to go up to Yerushalayim, Yatzu Elu, and these people are excluded because nobody wants to be in their company. They would not travel in a caravan together with these people because everyone has to hold their nose. They have to make, Rashi says, they have to make their own kibbutza and go if they want to go. And hence, Yatzu Elu, they're excluded. And our Mishnah, when it says Lechatzayin, means people who can't go with regular people, have to go with a specific group of people. Those people are going to be exempt from going up to Har HaBayit, says the Mishnah. Olot b'moed. Now, for this, we have to maybe we would have used that. It's not a necessity to really do the board, but we have to just remember the three obligations that we mentioned in the previous stuff you have when you go up to Yerushalayim, right? Remember, there's the mitzvah of re'iyah, going up to Yerushalayim and Har HaBayit, which comes with a korban. It's part and parcel of that first phase, is to bring a olat re'iyah, a korban olah, which is called olat re'iyah. That's one. Second set of korbans or korban that you have to bring is korban shlamim, that we call it shalmei chagigah, right? And the third level of korbanot that you bring is shalmei simcha v'samachta b'chagecha. You bring shalmei chagigah. You bring korban shlamim, but it's a korban shlamim of chagigah. So how can I spend money? What money can I spend on this korbanot is the question of this Mishnah. Now, a preface to this is, when a person goes to Yerushalayim, aside from taking himself, he has to also take Maser Sheni. We have discussed this before. One of the types of Masrot tithes that a person has to give is Maser Sheni. How so? When you have your produce, so you have to tithe the produce. You have to take Truma. Let's call it 2% you give to the Kohen. Then 10% you give to the Levi, right? And then from the remnants, you have Maser Sheni or Maser Ani, a second time that you tithe, which would depend on the year. Maser Sheni and Maser Ani don't coexist. The third and the sixth year of the 7 years of Shemitah, you have Maser Ani. The other years of the Shemitah, the first year, the second year, and the fourth year, right, and the fifth year, right, first, second, fourth, fifth, you have Maser Sheni. Now, what's the halacha Maser Sheni? You have to take Maser Sheni to Yerushalayim and eat it there with Tara. Now, if you can't do that, because it's going to rot away, you're not planning to go anytime soon or whatnot, what do? You could nullify the kedusha of Maser Sheni on money, right? You could be podeh your Maser Sheni, redeem it, and now the money that you use to redeem it is kadosh. You have to keep that separate, and when you go to Yerushalayim, you bring the money with yourself, and you have to spend it on food items. So therefore, everyone that went, or most people who went up to Yerushalayim, they brought a lot of cash with themselves, and they had to spend it on money, on the money on food. You bring extra korbanot. So now the question is, can I spend this money of Maser Sheni on the korbanot that we just spoke about? Like, how much red meat can you eat already, right? My local gastroenterologist is going to be very upset with me. And so what do I do? Do I spend this on other additional korbanot, or can I use it for some of this korbanot? That's the topic of our Mishnah. This is one of the cryptic Mishnayot, because the language is going to be also reconstructed again in the Gemara. So we explain it based on the Maskana of the Gemara a little bit, and then we'll see how it develops in the actual words of the Gemara. Says the Mishnah, Olot b'moed ba'ot min hachulin. The korban olah that you bring in Chol HaMoed, whenever we mention moed, means Chol HaMoed, right? This is Yom Tov and then there's moed. Moed means Cholo Shel Moed. So when you bring korban olah on Chol HaMoed, you can't spend money of Maser Sheni. You have to spend chulin, your own pocket money, your own money you have to spend on it. Now, at this stage of the Gemara, we are under the impression that this korban olah that the Mishnah is speaking about is olat hareiyah. That when you come to Beit HaMikdash, what type of korban olah you must bring? Olat hareiyah. You come, as part of coming up to Yerushalayim is korban olah avreiyah. So we're under the impression that this is the korban we're speaking about over here. You will see in the Gemara, we will fall off of this understanding, and we would understand the Mishnah to mean a regular korban olah. Regular korban olah. So it says, well, you could even have a neder or nedava. You could wake up one morning and say, I make a neder, I'm going to bring a korban olah to Beit HaMikdash. To do that. All the olah are burnt aside from the skin. So says the Mishnah, Olot bemoed ba'ot min hachulin. They come from your own private money. V'hashlamim min ha'maaser. The shlamim, and here we're talking about shalmei simcha, right? Shalmei simcha, the additional mitzvah v'samachta b'chagecha. You want to bring korbanot to have en simcha ela bebasar v'yayin. You want to have a good kebab and a happy time, a good time in what? That you could spend from Maser Sheni, right? That you could spend from Maser Sheni. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah rather, Yom Tov HaRishon Shel Pesach, the first Yom Tov of Pesach, we will see in the Gemara why Pesach, why first day of Pesach. Bet Shammai omrim min hacholin, ubet Hillel omrim min ha'maaser. That even the korban shlamim, and this is shalmei Chagigah now we are speaking about, it's a little cryptic. The shalmei Chagigah says the Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, they have a machloket, says the Mishnah. Bet Shammai hold that it comes from chulin, from your private money, shalmei Chagigah. And Bet Hillel say, no, you could spend even Maser Sheni on shalmei Chagigah. Then the Mishnah says, Yisrael yotzin yedei chuvatan benedarim v'nedavot. When we speak about shalmei simcha, now we're back to shalmei simcha. When the pasuk in the Torah says v'samachta b'chagecha, you should be happy. And we learned that simcha is bebasar v'yayin. You have to have good meat. So can that be the basar of different korbanot? The Mishnah says yes, it could be different korbanot depending on what your status is. Are you a Kohen? Are you a Yisrael? So says the Mishnah, Yisraeli yotzin chuvatam benedarim v'nedavot. Not only you bring shalmei simcha, that you bring a korban shlamim just for shalmei simcha, but you could also be yotzeh if you have a neder or nedava. Imagine if 2 months ago you made a neder, you say, oh, I'm going to go to Beit HaMikdash, I'm going to bring korban shlamim. So well, that's not your shalmei simcha, it's a neder you made. Or it's a nedava that you made. What's the difference, by the way, between neder and nedava? What? Yes, correct. Some chazara, right? What does neder mean? Hare alai. If you say hare alai, ola, right? Hare alai ola versus hare zu ola. If you see this beautiful animal, right, and you say, this should be a korban ola. Versus getting up one day in the morning and say, I will bring a olah, right? So what's the difference? The difference is if I said this korban, if it dies, I'm patur. If I say I will bring a olah, and then I go to my barn and I say this one, then this one dies, I'm not off the hook. I have to bring another one because I made a net that I'm going to bring a olah. So says the Gemara. So Yisrael, yotzin chovatam benedarim v'nedavot. They could even be yotze with their neder and nedavah that they made. Maaser behema, and with their maaser behema. Ve'hakohanim bechataot ve'ashamot, and kohanim, they could be yotze with their chatat, korban chatat, and korban asham, because again, Yisraelim, they can't eat chatat and asham. Only kohanim could. So therefore, kohanim could be yotze with korban chatat, korban asham, ubebechor, when you have a firstborn animal, you bring it, ubechazeh v'shok, and every korban shlamim, they get the chazeh v'shok, the portion of the kohanim. They could be yotze the shalmei simcha with all of those. Aval lo be'ofot v'lo be'menachot. But you can't be yotze the simcha with ofot, because when we say be'basar v'yayin, so to speak, this is the basar of bema. So not with ofot and not with menachot. Now, this halachically speaking, a fascinating talk, whether or not en simcha la bebasar v'yayin, Pesach is around the corner. Do you have to have meat every seudah of Yom Tov? Because besamachta bechagecha, and if you have to, then can you have some chicken, or do you have to have literally red meat? So this is machloket rishonim, machloket Rambam and Tosafot, whether or not the mitzvah of simcha bebasar v'yayin was only by having the basar of korbanot, not just regular meat that you shech and you buy from your butcher locally, but rather it has to, and therefore when you don't have the Beit HaMikdash, unfortunately, maybe, just maybe, the whole mitzvah of eating basar on Yom Tov is not there. Or maybe it is. So that's machloket rishonim. And the Shulchan Aruch, actually, surprisingly, or whatever you want to call it, Shulchan Aruch does not bring the chiyuv, the obligation of having basar on Yom Tov. People are so busy having fancy meat and spending a lot of money on meat on Yom Tov, because kavod Yom Tov, Shulchan Aruch doesn't even bring the chiyuv of basar on Yom Tov. Shulchan Aruch does bring the chiyuv of yayin. So every Suda, you have to have a revit of wine on Yom Tov. So this becomes a question for Shavuot, for instance, that there's a minhag to have a milchik Suda. Can you have a milchik Suda and not have meat? So based on Shulchan Aruch, you could do it as long as you find a good wine that goes with cheese, right? Used to be you only had this like heavy Malaga wine that you would have on Pesach, and you would have headaches until Shavuot, but now, Baruch Hashem, you have a whole industry. Every wine bottle comes with a pillow and blanket and a box and a history book, and so on. You can find a wine that goes with cheese and so on. So it's fine to have it. Actually, there are those that Darkei Tshuva brings from Shagatarieh, from others, that if you want to skip a seudah that is meat, and you want to have a milchik seudah, better to have it at night, because the zman of korbanot was during the day. So therefore, it's more important to have the fleishik seudah during the day than having it at night. But again, this is a fascinating talk, not for our shiur. Right now, we go on in the Gemara. So says the Gemara asks a question. Says, wait a second. You start the Mishnah with olot ba'moed pa'ot min hachulin v'ashlamim min ha'maser, right? Olot in chol ha'moed, they come from chulin, from your own pocket money, from your private money. Says the Gemara, olot ba'moed hu pa'ot min hachulin ha'biyotov min ha'maser. Well, you want to indicate that only on chol ha'moed the korban olah comes from your private money, and then indicating that on Yom Tov you could bring it from Maser Sheni. What sense does that make? What's the difference? Says the Gemara, Amai, why? Davar shebechovahi. It's an obligation. In other words, why is it that korban olah b'moed has to come from my private money and I can't spend maser money on it? For a very simple logical reason. Because anything that is my obligation, I can't cover my obligation from Maser Sheni. Maser Sheni is for things that I'm opting to buy. Can't be that I say, oh, well, I have the Maser Sheni, I have to give Maser, and I have to also pay this. Therefore, I'm going to cover one with the other. Actually, Moshe Feinstein has a beautiful tshuva whether or not the person could use maaser money to pay tuition, right? So if you say it's the same thing, if you say you must send your kids to Jewish school, right, and you must teach them Torah, and therefore you have no option of opting out, says Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, that you can't use your maaser money. But if it's something that you voluntarily doing, I'm not saying that that's not mutar. So it's a fascinating talk. You know, the Five Cohen in his Sefer disagrees with Rabbi Moshe. There's a lot to be talked about. The person should ask a she'ela, but this is really the same core question. If it's something that I'm obligated, I can't pay my obligations with my maserot. My maserot is not mine; it's Hashem's. I have to give it out, so I can't cover another obligation of mine with the other obligation. Can't do. So the reason you cannot pay for olah with your master sheni is because it's an obligation. So what's the difference if the olah I'm bringing a chol moed or I'm bringing a yom tov? So what's this language that you give me olot ba moed baot min achulin? Why only in chol moed it has to be from my private money? Says the Gemara, anything that's an obligatory activity and expenditure, you can't spend the money of Maser Sheni on it. It has to be your own money. So the Gemara says, you know what you gotta say? You would want to suggest Hakamash Malan that the language of the Mishnah is coming to teach us the olot b'moed baot b'yom tov enan baot. You want to say you're going to want to say that this language of the Mishnah, that olah in chol moed comes from chulin, is mentioning chol moed because on Yom Tov you can't even bring olah all together. That's why it says in chol moed, because you know when it's the only time that you could bring korban olah. Chol moed on Yom Tov you can't even bring olah. Gemara says that's what you would want to say, but you can't say that because that's the shita of Bet Shammai. There is a massive machloket between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel whether a person could bring a korban olah on Yom Tov or not. Right? Let's leave this for tomorrow morning. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll explain this and we'll go on in the Gemara and finish up this sugya. Chazak u'baruch.